This is retarded. Wow. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's also really funny. More than anything, it's pretty interesting because you have to really consider the irony of the whole story, right? So I feel like I keep telling the same story in different ways, but like nobody's like, very few people are picking it up, which is sad, by the way. But that's okay. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's we're all conditioned by each other, so it's just everybody's fault equally, I guess. But the good news is all you have to do is change your mind state, change it to something positive. Because what seems to keep happening is people keep taking something and through their own filters of their minds, making it into something that's negative. Whatever that negative thing may be. I like to think that most hope to get rid of it and not just continue to complain about it forever. Because God, that would be annoying. Certainly fixing problems is the best, fastest way to prevent them, and vice versa. I believe. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Okay, well, here's the irony of it. The idea of my wonderful, wonderful teacher, she was actually one of my favorites from Kingsburg High. And I don't want to say this dude's name because here's the thing. It doesn't matter, first of all. But second, he's a good person. Mostly. Not really, but kind of. Anyway, point is, this wasn't typical of him to do. And so I'm more certain than anything that he just was going through something and dealing with it by being what is that word when you're like sort of detached? Like that's why we have the heroin epidemic, is because people are addicted to like this detachment or whatever. But anyway, don't pay too much attention to that because it's also the opposite. It has both reactions. First, it makes you attached to people who are doing the same drug, obviously, because you're releasing oxytocin, and it's a chemical that the body produces to bond with people. For example, mothers produce this when they're giving birth so they can bond with their babies. So naturally, I'm not saying that this person was doing heroin, but as an example, if someone were to do heroin, they would feel more attached to people at that time. And when it starts to wear off, I imagine they would feel the detachment part because the dopamine levels have run out or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm telling you a story. So it's and this was like in a time for me that was also like I was just like looking for reasons to be like annoy my parents, I guess, like just be a total fucking embarrassment just for no reason because I hated them, I guess, in my mind, but it's fine. So actually that doesn't sound fine. Yeah, it's not fine. Don't do what I did at all. I definitely regretted it like before. Like sometimes like you know you wouldn't do something, like you know for sure you would never do something, but like if someone were to like put a gun in your hand and then like pull the trigger for you, like you're kind of like, well, did I do it, or was I just kind of distracted and you were kind of not, and then it kind of like happened, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's what happened in class. But also this happened to happen with this guy that like I had the biggest fucking crush on for some reason. And so I guess he like knew that like he could get away with it or I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it was. He's really like, obviously now I think back and I'm like, it wasn't that great. But at the time, you know, we're subject to our environments and such. Whatever. So he actually grabbed my hand during class. And put it like in places where it shouldn't have been. On himself. And I couldn't stop laughing at first because like I tried to pull my hand away, but then like I don't know, just the look on his face was just like kind of hilarious because I couldn't tell like if he was just like not all like if he was okay or if he was just like trying to be funny, which like it was fucking hilarious. Like I don't know why, it was just fucking hilarious. Anyway, and I didn't like personally feel violated, but I felt like other people felt violated, you know, like because we're in class, like obviously they're going to feel weird, especially obviously our teacher. But I'm assuming that was the reason he did it, like to piss her off. I don't know, and we never fucking actually talked about it. It's really weird. But anyways, when what impressioned me about this, how do you say that? What left an impression on me was this teacher, because I had this distorted view of her, right? I had this idea of her being like perfect and having like very conservative views, like just being like a total Republican versus a Democrat type thing, you know, or whatever. Independent. I don't know what they call it these days. You know, old school lady. And so I imagine naturally that this kind of thing, if it did embarrass her as she had claimed it did. I mean, she didn't say that, but like, she basically pulled me aside and like had the most serious look. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't like, you guys are stupid. She was just like dead serious look on her face. It made me embarrassed for her. I was like, oh my god, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't think like, you know, I mean, whatever. I did think she would look, because that's what teachers like. Literally, that's their job, is to like watch you and make sure like if you ever fuck anything up that they're there to fucking, you know, to know about it or something. I don't know. And then give you a stern look, but not really explain anything. So I'm just kidding. No. But yeah, that basically happened. She's like, well, if that happens again, I'm gonna have to contact your parents. And I was like, oh my god, if only you knew, like, way worse things have happened. My mom's gonna laugh. Like, I didn't tell her that, but you know, I was just like, oh no. I was like, hey, sorry, it won't happen again. Like, I didn't even know it was happening actually, but I was trying not to fucking laugh too. Like, it's, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful. So whatever. Meanwhile, I don't remember if it was like, fuck, how far apart in between these two things happened, but I want to say it was like within like those weeks, say month, because like it just seemed like everybody was like on a fucking weird ass, like, I don't even know, like let's fucking make Steph super uncomfortable type of vibe, right? And I had this really awful class. I think it was like biology, some type of science, and the teacher was like the biggest square ever. Like, I'm not gonna like be a hater, but like, you know, he was just one of those teachers that like nobody could relate to, nobody could have a real conversation with, because you know he wouldn't fucking understand like anything about anything, like the culture these days, or like how kids are, or like how things even happen in the first, like, you know, it's how could he relate to that? His views are, the only thing you have to do is show up to class and they'll show up to school and go home afterwards. And don't even worry about lunch or fucking talking to anybody, because you should just be glad that you're not having to fight a war to defend your family, or like that, like, yeah, in his 60s type shit, right? And so also me and I remember who the fuck, I don't know, some random friends of mine like had invited me to smoke weed that day. So I was super stoned, and I walk into the science class, and like I can barely, like, I'm fucking stumbling all over the place. I have like everything, my entire life. I've never been one of those girls that has like just her boobs just hang out all the time, right? It's just not. It's just isn't. I'm sorry. No, no. Especially in comparison to other people. Like, I'm just like a 2 on like a scale of like 1,000. So if someone tries to give me some of that shit, like, I already know, like, something's up, man. That's weird. That's not only unprecedented, but something's fucking up. And I don't fucking joke about that shit. So notice the difference, okay? The first guy, I liked him. It was okay or whatever. It wasn't disrespectful. But this is now my teacher, who is 70, 80 fucking years old, who knows how the fuck old, he's like from another planet or something, randomly just like observing me as I enter the room and making a comment about my body, like just openly in front of everybody. And so I don't know if it was like natural for me to assume that like my previous teacher had also like made the mistake of speaking on a student's body when it's, obviously the whole point of her pulling me aside and not saying something in front of the whole class was for that same reason, to conserve some type of um, some level of privacy, right? That I thought was the idea. Clearly, I'm wrong. So what we're doing as humans, it's like natural. We're all doing it. People, we're just getting by. So we've stopped actually doing the work that we enjoy doing. We've stopped actually holding people accountable. We've stopped holding ourselves accountable. We've stopped actually caring about each other's wellness and safety. Because, as Simon Sinek explains it, if my boss is, treating me like a robot and makes me feel unsafe about my job position, then I'm gonna make my customers feel unsafe, right? Because that's basically the vibration he's giving off to his employees. What else do they have to offer people but what they've been given, right? And so I automatically like forgave this teacher, even though I was fucking disgusted by his comment. And it just threw me off, and it threw my whole fucking day off, and it killed my high, and it didn't help me focus on the schoolwork at all. So like, wow, I could go on for days, but like, whatever. I'm very fucking forgiving and shit. So I was like passive about it. But come to find out, what that really was is he had just got done talking to another student who happened to be my lab partner, who, by the way, this teacher placed me with this person as a partner. So I'm really failing to see like how any of this is like how I'm the one that needs to be spoken to about it, right? So I don't know, whatever. It's your fault for having boobs, I guess. Yeah. So it's fine. And then I looked over at my classmate. You know, I didn't even know this guy's name. I knew he had a girlfriend because I always see him with her everywhere, and she had just happened to walk in too. So I was like, okay, perfect. Like, you know, make it really awkward. And so, I should have at that point immediately made a comment back to the teacher about his inappropriate comments to a student, right? So, but that's besides the point. I mean, if people want to play these cards, that's just the way we need to play it. It's not like a matter of like right or wrong. It's like, hold on, what are you actually trying to say though? Because really, you just ended up making everybody uncomfortable. And he had just got done telling this other student, well, when I walked in, like I was late, so I guess they were talking about like something personal, like quietly, right? So that's why it was so awkward, because when he pointed out, he's like, "Oh, don't just lean over the desk and shove your papers to grab a paper. It's like you can stand up and walk around." So like of course, being the female, should have to get up and walk all the way around this student who, like, instead of just letting me pass, decided to take a seat right there. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But I imagine if he's okay with that, then he's also perfectly fine with me reaching the fuck over and grabbing a fucking sheet of paper. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? These things do not align. That's my point here. These types of things being said do not align with the personality, with the character of someone who is actually defending someone's righteousness, who's actually looking out for the well-being of other people, for someone who's considerate, respectful of people's privacy, would never raise their voice to someone to say something like that, especially not fucking knowing the person for more than 2 days. It's astonishing, dude. You think this stuff, like, kind of stuff never happens, that it's rare? Fuck, that shit happens way too often to count. I have lost track of the number of times that shit has happened, and I have had no choice but to remain silent, because if I say something, now all of a sudden, oh, now I'm defensive, now it's a problem. Now I'm the problem. Because I wasn't sneaky enough. I wasn't the first to come up with some shit and say it in front of everybody. Therefore, I must be a fool for defending myself, right? But it's whatever. So I've also learned that being passive about shit and just letting people see the pattern people live their own lives in is like the best tester for, like, because it immediately gets rid of the people that already didn't like you and, like, were just looking for a reason, right? So then you don't have to waste time with them and waste opportunities on them that you could have just been around the right people, right? This is just the way I've always looked at things. I know it's kind of like specific, but like, yeah, I thought a lot about this shit when I was younger for some reason. I really have always been very calculated. And people have always had a problem with it, apparently. But it's fine. My point being the same. If we just allow the insult instead of, the smart thing or whatever, the natural inclination that we might have to react and defend ourselves, might actually work better, because it's very specific and it's very what's that word? The people that pay attention to those things, the like small details, when people are talking, like they naturally just know they need to pay attention to those things without you having to tell them. Those are your people. Those are the people you need to keep in your life, in your circles, all like no matter where they're going, keep in touch with them because they already understand something about you. You guys already understand the same technologies, for lack of a better word, the same technologies in life. And so it just makes everything easier when you're not constantly having to teach somebody, not constantly having to defend yourself, but it's more of like a reiteration, a reminder, a confirmation, right? It's not so fucking static all the fucking time. Like, shit's fucking exhausting. It will drain you mentally, emotionally, physically, in every way fucking possible until your soul is dust. That's not even an exaggeration. Like, people literally died, like, lost the will to live before. Why? Because their partners die. And what was it about their partners? Their partners understood things about them. And that's why they were their partners.